It's time for this month's podcast. Do just try and control your enthusiasm, won't you, hon? Hello lovely people, and welcome to episode 12 of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. My name is Leslie and this is a knitting, crochet and general yarn craft podcast from the south coast of England. Thank you very much for joining me. Whether you're a new viewer or a returning viewer, thank you for spending your time here. Now normally I record throughout the month and then post up on the last weekend of each month. During November I realised I was talking far too much, so I actually put a post up halfway through the month, and if I say the word month any more times in this little section I'll get cross with myself. But I will put a little eye up here if you haven't seen the mid-November episode and you want to, then there'll be an eye here for you to click so you can get onto that. Massive thank you to everyone who has responded to both the October episode and the mid-November one. Thanks for all the comments. I hope I've answered everything. I tend to rely on YouTube sending me an email to let me know that there's a comment, and then every now and again I realise that some are on there that I haven't had the email about. So I hope I've caught them all. If I haven't, apologies. I do try to respond to everybody. So thank you very much for interacting, for joining in the conversations. So really appreciate your comments, your thoughts, your observations. It's all fab. If you are a new viewer, you might be wondering why it's called the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast when I have one cupboard very obviously behind me and there are another two over here. The reason for that is I rarely buy enough yarn to make a whole project, particularly a sweater or cardigan. So I end up putting stripes and blocks and fades in because I haven't got quite enough yarn to finish it. So that's how it started. This is the story of my yarn diet. Now my yarn diet is a bit odd in as much as people keep giving me yarn, which is incredibly kind of them. So I'm not really working through the stash as much as I thought I might be. May also explain my physical appearance, except I'm not on a food diet, so yeah, can't explain that one. Later in this podcast we'll have the giveaway result, so we'll announce the winner, and that's a giveaway because I reached 2,000 subscribers. So thank you also to everyone who's subscribed. I really do appreciate any interaction from you. It warms my heart, it absolutely does. But on to knitting content first of all, because I have a finished object. Now I've spoken in the last couple of podcasts about the hat I was making for my husband and the fact that he has an exceptionally large head, and I'm going to demonstrate just how big his head is, because I have here a fine hat, obviously not knitted. Australians will recognise it as an akubra. Do I mean akubra? Yes, I do. And it is a marvellous hat. We found it on holiday in Cairns back in 2000. And this fits him perfectly. This is one of his favourite things and it fits him perfectly. But this is how big my husband's head is. Now this hat is getting scruffy, and we've tried to get a replacement from Akubra and they don't do this exact model anymore and they don't seem that interested in helping, which is a tad frustrating. But it's a lovely hat. He's still wearing it even though it's scruffy. So, excuse me picking up my needle, I have knitted him a hat. I gave him an option of yarns. I had some plain black, some plain grey. He tends to go for fairly conservative, sensible colours, or a striped yarn, and he decided to go for the striped, which is this stuff here. It is by Stylecraft and it's Candy Swirl. 100% premium acrylic, double knitting weight, and it's not bad feel for acrylic. I mean, it's not one of the very soft acrylics, but it's not bad. And you can see it's just shades, 2 shades of grey and 1 of black. And so I made him a hat. Now, if you do use this type of yarn, little word to the wise here, when it's in this kind of a cake, I use it as a centre pull. Excuse me. And because I was throwing this in and out of my project bag and taking it to various places to work on it, I spent about an hour the other evening untangling it, because it's quite loosely, I mean, it's not actually a cake, as you can see. It's kind of this strange spirally sort of way of winding it up. So if you're using this type of thing, go from the outside, your life will be much easier. So it looks like I've made a sleep sack for the dog, because it is so big, but it is his hat. He hasn't even tried it on yet, because I've told him I've got to record this before he can have it. So I'm going to be the first person to wear it. So it's very big on me, but I would expect it to be. So just a really simple hat. I started off with 12 stitches. I think I'm inside out actually. Oh dear. I started with 12 stitches and I just increased, because it's knit one purl one rib, I increased on the knit stitch, just doing a knit one purl one, so I was increasing 6 stitches every round, and that gave it quite a nice neat increase there. This looks a bit baggy, but it'll block out with wearing. I'm not going to block this hat, partly because it's acrylic, so it doesn't block as well as natural fibres, and partly because it's going to get slung in his work bag for ages, so there's really not a lot of point. So it's a big hat. Don't have anything else much to say about it really. Yeah, so I did those increases until I worked around the 150 stitch mark, whatever is a multiple of 12. Yeah, multiple of 6, multiple of 12, multiple of 12. And then just knitted straight down once I'd done the increases. By that stage I could put it all on this length of needle, which I think is a 40 centimetre one, and these are Knit Picks, or Knit Pro in the States I believe, carbons, and I really like them. They have a nice smooth feel, relatively pointy stick. I've got some Addy lace needles and I really love them because I do like my sticks quite pointy, but these are pretty nice and smooth. So I just worked round and round on this. I didn't have to magic loop it, it all fitted onto here. So that finished, he can have his hat now. It used 90 grams of the yarn, and I did work out the meterage of that. I think it was something like 260 metres, 270, something like that. But yeah, like I say, double knitting weight, knit one purl one rib, very straightforward. Let the colours, let the yarn do the work and put the stripes in for you. Right, lovely people, before I go on to this next section, a bit of background. I had a friend, Karen. She was a lovely lady. Very modern friendship. I'd only met her in person a few times, but we'd communicated a lot online. And just a really smashing person. Very clever, very funny, filthy mind, and very wise, very gentle. She was a celebrant, that's how I met her. She also conducted funerals, and just a really lovely person. Well, about a year ago, sort of October last year, no, possibly a bit earlier, she found out she was quite poorly. She had leukemia. And because of the nature of her illness, she was kept isolated a lot of the time in hospital. And part of the reason for me starting the vlog, although I never said it out there, was the hope that it would be a bit of entertainment for her, a bit of light relief. Couldn't go and see her because she was in isolation. Geographically we weren't that close. yeah, so I hoped that it would be kind of entertaining for her and a bit of a laugh. Unfortunately, earlier this year, Karen died, and it absolutely knocked me sideways. My poor husband has put up with listening to me upset, crying, tearful most of the year for someone that he never actually met. I mean, that's the bizarre thing. I almost felt as if I didn't have the right to grieve as deeply as I was, which I know is nonsense. There are no rules about it. But that was kind of what I was going through. Well, then her husband got in touch and said, would you like Karen's yarn? Oh my goodness. I had quite a wobble at that point, as you can imagine. I was trying to explain. You guys all know why this kind of matters, because you deal in yarn and craft and all that sort of stuff. But I was sort of trying to explain to non-crafters that it's like being offered someone's guitar. It feels such a personal thing. Well, that was a few months ago. Hadn't heard anything. Obviously hadn't pushed it. One doesn't. Then he got in touch last week saying that he was going to be in London and could I meet with him, and unfortunately I was working so I couldn't. So I went back and said, no, unfortunately, you know, when we worked out we couldn't be in the same place at the same time, I said, well, if you want it out the way, I'll arrange a courier to come pick it up. And he said, oh, don't worry, leave it with me. And I came home from work on Friday to find, excuse me doggy, 2 boxes this size. And so I now have a vastly extended yarn stash, which I'm delighted to have but would never have wanted, if you know what I mean. Apologies, that's probably a real buzzkill, because we're back on death again. I mean, with me that's an occupational hazard, it shouldn't normally affect my crafting life. But I have these 2 boxes of yarn, and I am going to share their contents with you. I'll do it probably in sections, partly because I've got the logistics of photographing it as well and getting it onto Ravelry, because I do like to have all my yarn on there. I find it easier for sorting through when I'm looking for project quantities. But also I don't know how I'm going to be going through this, because there's going to be stuff in here that I will possibly get a little bit upset about, and I don't want to buzzkill everyone. So I'm going to go through in sections. You'll have some today, some another day, and yes, if you're wondering what I'm doing with my hands, I have the dog here, just in case you're worried. It's not that kind of video. Hello, come on. There we go. So my little friend here, hello, is going to help me sort through a box of yarn, hopefully. So here we go. Oh, she doesn't like strange movements. Oh my goodness, I've just opened the first box to find a part completed project. And I think that my friend was working on this the last time I was spending time with her. Whenever we got together, and there were a group of us, we would normally bring our knitting or crochet or whatever we were working on along and sit and chat about it. And I'm pretty sure she was working on this blanket then. She might have been making the squares for it. Yeah, I think they're sewn in. So they look like single rib squares, and judging by the yarn, they're in Debbie Bliss fine Donegal in a range of colours. So there's a lot of that in here. We've got blue, got this lovely pink colour. I don't know if these have names. No, it has a number, 54009 54014. Got this green. And this sort of darker. I'm not sure how it's going to come up on screen. It looks grey, but it's kind of around the purple edges of grey, so it's a really lovely colour. So there's quite a lot of that in this box, along with this blanket, so which is not complete, and that's fine because that can be completed. Wow. Yeah. It feels a bit weird, but weird in a good way. It feels like a hug of love coming here. So anyway, this is about yarn, not my emotions. So we have Wendy Melody. Trying to see if there is a colourway. Again, it's a number 171. So kind of yellows into reds. I've used yarn like this before. The cowl I made was similar to this in terms of structure. So yeah, that's a nice colour. We have, oh good, oh it's the Women's Institute. There we go, Women's Institute, soft and silky. This is, what's this made of? 100% microfiber acrylic. Now its recommended needle size is 3.25mm needle, and it's got 270 meters per, how many grams is that? 100 grams. Yeah, so with that needle size recommendation, it's kind of a 4-ply or a sport weight. It does feel beautifully silky and soft, actually. It feels absolutely gorgeous. That would be great for baby things because it'll be fully washable and feels delightful. We've got some Rowan Summerlight DK, and this is 100% cotton, and it looks, yeah, we've got this in a couple of colours. We've got this fawn colour and this pale green, so I hope you can see those okay. And we've also got some Jaeger luxury spun in a really nice soft grey colour, and that is 90% wool, 10% alpaca, and it feels nice actually. It feels kind of best of both worlds with the fibre. If you can hear a strange rattling noise, it's the dog scratching when she's got collar on. Yeah, so it's a nice sort of robust feeling yarn, but the alpaca gives it some softness, so that's nice as well. That appears to be this box, so I think I'm going to stop it there. I'll record another section another day. And, wow, this blanket is actually quite beautiful. She chose colours well. I mean, it's the old story for me that these aren't colours I would put together, and yet she's made a cracking choice there. Oh, bless her. Well, we shall do her proud with it. Right, stage 2 of the yarn haul that I didn't want but I'm glad I've got. Today would have been my friend's birthday. Yeah, I have nothing really to say. If I look rough, it's not because of that, it's because I was drumming last night, and if you think I look ropey this morning, here's what I looked like yesterday evening. Yeah, sorry about that. So here is the next stage of going through my friend's yarn, and I'm going to try and do it all today. I know I said I was going to do it in bits, but I feel like I would like to go through it all, get it all onto Ravelry. It's a Sunday, so I have time to do stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to do. Onwards. I thought I'd emptied the first box yesterday. Oh, what a mad fool I was. There was quite a bit in there. So there are an almost full pack of this, which is Debbie Bliss Milano. This is wool, polyamide, silk, polyester and acrylic. Very unusual structure, the way it's spun. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, so it's nearly full pack. And she was a girl who liked to bargain, because judging by this, it was initially nearly 70 quid and she got it for a tenner. Good girl. And she did it with another one as well, which is a slightly different colour. The other was black with a sort of grey. This is more of a yellowy green, but the same yarn. So that's those. And we have just this box looks as though it has more single balls in it, so just the sort of thing I'm used to, really. And all sorts of stuff by the look of it. So we have some Heritage DK, good workhorse yarn, this one, 100% acrylic, oh no, apologies, 55% wool, 25% acrylic, 20% nylon. Nice sort of dark, almost chocolatey brown colour there. This is a brand I don't know, Whistle Bear sock. Great colourway name, Lady Lilliard's Tomb, and it says no pong. That might be because it has no nylon in it. It's mohair and wool, 80% mohair, 20% wool. At least 300 metres, around 130 grams. So that's a nice sort of purple plum sort of colour. What have we got here? Serda Silky Look double knitting. This is 93% acrylic and 7% nylon. Reminds me of when I was a kid. I think it was Cortell yarn. Has that kind of feel to it. A little softer, but that type of thing. Quite a lot of cotton in here by the looks of things. So we've got some patterns 100% cotton in quite a striking pink. We have some more of the Rowan Summerlight that I opened yesterday, so a nice sort of dusky pink here. So she obviously had one of my types of projects in mind, lots of colours. We've got a sort of, I'd call that a donkey brown. I hope no one's offended by that, because I like donkeys. Yes, there's a couple of brown. There's darker green than the one I saw yesterday, so more towards an olive sort of colour. So this is all Rowan Summerlight DK, 100% cotton, looking for a yarn, 130 metres per, I presume that's 50 grams, yes it is. Oh, there's some more of the donkey colour. There's some more of the Serda Silky Look. Oh, we have something fluffy here. Serda Snuggly Snowflake. Now I have a little baby boy who's due in the spring to make things for. And speaking with his mum-to-be, she was saying that they had a lot of blue stuff and she quite liked natural colours. So thank you, my good friend, that is perfect. Couple of those. Some more cotton 4-ply. This one's Serda, and this is a looser spin than some of the others. 335 metres for 100 grams. So she had stuff in mind, I'm sure. Another one of those. More snowflake. I'm just pulling stuff out at random here. Oh, another one of those. Another one of those. She had plans. Right, oh, Debbie Bliss Angel in a sort of, I would call that muddy white, but I'm sure that's not its official name. It's not quite a natural undyed colour, it's a little greyer than that. There's no colour name, it's colour number 15005. So 76% Super Kid mohair and 24% silk. So that is lovely. Oh my goodness, what have we got here? We've got more of the pink cotton. We have, oh hello, what's this? Oh, Rowan brushed fleece. I've not seen that before. That is beautifully soft, very thick, so it's made with extra fine merino wool and baby alpaca, and that's definitely a dark chocolatey brown colour. And looking for a needle recommendation on that, which is 6mm, so US 4, no sorry, US 10. So yeah, nice and thick, nice hat yarn that, I would say. We've got a grey here with a fleck in. Some of these are unlabelled now. So it's a grey with flecks of green. That would actually go quite nicely with the grey that I unboxed yesterday. I have plans for some of this yarn. When I knew it was coming, I started devising things to do with it, which I will talk about later, in later podcasts as I work through them. But I have some ideas of what I would like to do as a kind of gesture for the family. We have some Debbie Bliss Mia, so that's a wool cotton mix. And actually that's very similar to some Debbie Bliss, can't remember the name of it, but some Debbie Bliss I've got in the cupboard, similar colourway. We have good old Serda Country Style. A couple of balls of that. Again, this nice sort of bright pink. We have some West Yorkshire Spinners Signature. So this is their sock yarn. I'm looking to see if there is... No, there's no name on that. Yeah, so 75% wool, 25% nylon. The day that my friend was diagnosed, and this shows her character, before taking herself off to the hospital, excuse me, because she had been told that that's where she needed to go, before she got there, she conducted a funeral and she posted off a pair of slippers that a pair of socks that she'd made for a friend, and the friend wore them to her funeral some months later. And when I was communicating with her when she was in hospital, I said, how did you do that? How did you go and conduct a funeral and worry about sending off a pair of socks? And she said, I wanted a bit of normality before it all changed. And she was just kind of thinking of others and keeping it calm. So yes, a keen sock knitter. There's some sock yarn there. This looks like it may also be West Yorkshire Spinners. Similar colourway, it may even be the same colourway actually, looking at it. Looks different because it's a bit looser in the ball. We've got some more of the Summer Light in the darker olivey green colour. So there's quite a bit of that. Another ball of Mia. This is some Rowan fine lace, and it's 80% baby suri alpaca and 20% merino, so it feels absolutely beautiful. I hope the light is showing up this colour. It's a really kind of dark purple into grey. Beautiful. That would work well with something I have in mind. My lord, I have a cunning plan, as they say on Blackadder. Oh, here are the other two balls of the Milano from the packs. We have quite a few balls of Patterns Coral Elegant Drape. This feels quite nice. It feels quite cottony. Let me just see what it's made of. 61% cotton, 39% acrylic. And you can see by the way I'm throwing it around, let's try with another one. You can see the way it's plied, you've got a darker and a lighter sort of mild effect together. So quite a lot of balls of that. I'm just emptying this box out here. This looks like another ball of the Mia. It's a weird thing going through someone's stash. And it's a privilege, but it's a bit odd. Feels like I'm going through her underwear drawer a bit. Some more yarn here, which is really pretty actually. I don't know if you can see the colours, but we've got some reds into greens. And this is Whistlebear again. It's not a yarn I've come across before, but it's lovely. Reared in Northumberland. And this is called Yeavering Bell. And the colourway is Water Nymph. And again, it's 80% mohair and 20% wool. At least 350 metres per 100 grams. So a really pretty soft yarn. Tuck that label back in. We've got some Sublime. That's the yarn I was thinking of. The where is it? Oh, I don't know. So this is in a dark. I'm going to call this Dark Donkey. You can see why I've never had a job naming yarns, can't you? Some more Milano. Okay. Oh, another Debbie Bliss Angel, this time in a sort of natural undyed colour. So that's lovely. And we're pretty much onto unlabelled balls now. I've just got a couple more. Some Patterns Merino DK in a not too bright lime green, and another one of the silky look. And looking at this, if this is washable, this might also be a good colour for the baby that I'm talking about, because they wanted sort of natural shades. And rather teasingly, they've said it will go with his name, but they're not telling anyone what it'll be. So I'm going to put it out there. I'm guessing Rowan, but I could be completely off on that. Those are all the labelled balls, and so I'll show you the rest of the box as it is. Oh, hello, we've got stuff falling all over the place. So there's also a box here of unlabelled, hope you can see that, oddments, scraps and bits and pieces. So there's all sorts of stuff in here. That feels a bit like that Yeavering Bell. So yeah, some lovely stuff in here. Some I think I will match up with the balls I've got labels for. Yeah, I look forward to using it because she would want it used. She would want it knitted with and interesting things created with it. So that's what I'm going to try and do. Like I say, I plan to pay a few things back, and I'll talk about those ideas as I make them. But I feel like a very lucky girl at the moment. Firstly for all this yarn, but secondly and more importantly for having known her. She was a lovely lady. Look after your friends, be nice to everyone. Now it's going to sound like I'm doing a lecture now. Just value the people in your lives, because they're what makes life important. Here endeth the first lesson. Slightly different angle today to prop the phone up. So the last section was all about my stash and how I got it, which was all a bit sad. So I thought I'd lighten things up with this session. So I'm outside the crematorium, as you do. My face looks very odd. I don't know what the light is doing to me. I just have to accept that my face is odd, unfortunately. And yes, I'm just being silly. I am outside the crematorium, but I also do hope to brighten things up a bit. I am fairly monogamous with my knitting this month. As well as doing the hat, I am working on the cable-fronted cardigan or jacket for my sister. It's not a Christmas gift, but I am seeing her the week before Christmas, and I would really like to be able to have it finished and give it to her then. So working on that pretty much exclusively. So there won't be an awful lot of knitting content this month, even though there's been a lot of yarn content. So I'm going to answer some of the questions that folks kindly asked when I put out a request on Instagram a little while ago. I think it was Instagram. Yes, it was. And I'm going to start with a question by Yarn Obsessed Gran. Love your pooch. Well, everybody loves my pooch. She's a sweetheart, really. I know I complain about her, but she's a sweetheart. What is your favourite yarn weight to work with and why? I'm not sure I really have one. The answer to almost every question in life is, of course, it depends. I would probably say, if I had to choose, double knitting weight. And that's as much familiarity as everything else, because in the UK, double knitting weight is probably the most common weight of yarn. We don't really have worsted weight or sport. We have double knitting, 4-ply, which is the equivalent of fingering, and then it gets bigger and it gets finer. But for most sweaters, for example, double knitting weight would be the one. And I would probably go for that. For familiarity, that on a 4mm needle for me grows fairly quickly, but is still not too bulky with regards to the finished item. So thank you very much for that question. But I really don't have a specific favourite. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of very, very fine yarns, purely because I'm not a particularly quick knitter, and so it would take me too long to finish anything. But as long as it's appropriate for what I'm looking to make, I don't really have a go-to weight. Cauldron of Colours, what is your favourite colour to wear and knit with? With regards to knitting, I like lots of colours, and I'm very fond of striping yarns and variegated yarns, partly because even with plain knitting, it keeps the interest going. So I like that, and sort of, working towards the next stripe or the next colour change. That's what I would always choose. And certainly when I'm in a yarn shop, which obviously I'm not, because I don't buy yarn at the moment, but I'm drawn towards the variegated, the self-striping, the pretty things. However, what I like to wear is a bit plainer, which is why I've got some stuff that I've made that I don't wear very often. And I loved making them, but they feel a bit too bright for me. I've got a Noro jacket that I call it my coat of many colours, because it is. So there is this sort of difference between what I like to wear and what I like to knit. My favourite colour is red. Good job I joined a knitting group which has black and red as its colours, because otherwise I'd have been struggling. But no, my car's red, my sofa's red, my handbag is red, my phone cover is red. Quite often my eyes are red. There's a lot of red in my life. Also fond of purples and round to blues, but red is probably kind of my colour. So thank you very much, Cauldron of Colours, for that. SD Knitter said, how did you get into the drumming thing? Well, the group that I belong to has been going for a long time, and I've been aware of them when I've been to kind of carnivals, parades and events. I've seen them there. I also have friends who used to be members of the group, but never really pursued it. And then they came along to one of our Women's Institute meetings. We were told to take along a bucket and 2 wooden spoons. And I immediately thought, oh, we're going to be drumming. My neighbour, who is also a member, thought we were going to be making something and mixing it up in the bucket and using the spoons to mix it. So she was rather surprised when the drummers came in. There were 3 of them. They were in full costume and makeup, and they put on quite a show. And they let us know sort of how to join. That was in October 2 years ago. I didn't join immediately because I had a lot of other stuff going on at the time. And they have a break between the beginning of the year and end of March. There aren't many events going on that they would be drumming at, and so they have a bit of a break then. So I joined in March of this year, and have thoroughly enjoyed it. Even when we got absolutely soaked in the rain the other week, it took 2.5 days for my shoes to dry out. It was just absolutely teeming down with rain, but still was enormous fun. There's just something very therapeutic about hitting things. I'd recommend it to everyone. And they're a really nice crowd of people. I mean, that's what really matters. They're a good crowd. Just looking. Knit Nurse 74. Oh, what a cute little face. Well, thank you, but I guess you're talking about the dog. And she asked, what is your dream knitting or favourite pattern? I don't know that I really have one, but if by favourite we're talking about the one that I've repeated most often, then that would have to be the good old standby, the Baby Surprise Jacket by Elizabeth Zimmerman. It's easy to make, it's very adaptable. It's one of those that you feel you're never going to end it and then suddenly it's done. You can do lots of variations on it. So I really like the BSJ. I think it's incredibly useful, and it's one I've made. I never used to make patterns more than once, but that is one I've made lots of times. And it's a good way to use some of the variegated yarn that I've got, because that works very well in a BSJ. It looks as if people are gathering and they're going to think I'm a bit odd talking to myself. Not the first time that's been said, I'm sure. So there is one last question, and that is from Looby69. And she writes, if you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would you choose? Now, anyone who knows me watching this is probably shouting chocolate at YouTube at the moment, because I am a fan. Let's be honest, I am fond of chocolate. I'm an admirer of chocolate's work. I think it's done a lot of good in the world. And yes, that would be an obvious choice, but a little too obvious. Because if one is looking at only having one food for the rest of one's life, then there is a lot to consider. There is the nutritional value. There are the different circumstances, because much as I love chocolate, when I'm really, really hungry, it's not chocolate I want, because I'm too hungry for something sweet. You know, you want something a bit more savoury, perhaps. So one has to consider a lot of factors. Vitamins, protein, amino acids. I'm not even sure what they are, but you know, there are many things to consider. Oh, who am I kidding? It's Walker's Smoky Bacon Crisps. They are the best thing in the world. And I'm not talking about how genuine the flavouring is with regards to it being bacon, because I know that would put a lot of people off for reasons of religion or for being vegetarian. But Walker's Smoky Bacon Crisps are suitable for vegetarians. So you can draw your own conclusion from that, because it's all tasting of smoke, not much of bacon, but they are lovely. As my niece-in-law would say, they are lush. So, yes, that would be my desert island food. Where I'd get that many packets of crisp on a desert island is unsure. But hey-ho, it's raining, I'm doing a cable. I've got to go and be a grown-up in a minute. So thank you for those questions. I may well answer some more later. If not, any I haven't answered, I have got them all here, and I'll hold them over for next podcast if I don't put them in this one. Thanks ever so much. Right, the drumming for this evening finished earlier than expected, and I had the last bit of the podcast to record, so I thought no, I'm not going to do it like this. I'll sort out the paperwork for the giveaway. I'll record it tomorrow. Because Heidi won't let me do anything else. Right, lovely people, this is the final section of the podcast. Phew, they all say. Bit of actual knitting content. Hasn't been a lot this month. I've been relatively monogamous, as I've said earlier. So my sister's cardigan, the back is blocking. I think I had the first of the front started when I last showed it to you, and I'm assuming that's what this stitch marker is. So I finished the first of the fronts. Obviously that needs blocking, and I'm hoping you can see the cable pattern there. And I am up to here on the second front. So this pattern, I've used the Anne Budd book of sweater patterns to get the sizing and the stitch counts and so forth, and the cable pattern comes from the Nora Gorn book, her cable resource book. So that's how we're coming along. So I've got 3 weeks to finish this front, to make 2 sleeves and to put it all together. So fingers crossed, it should be possible, providing work and life doesn't get in the way too much. So that's actual knitting content. The yarn is Debbie Bliss Rialto Aran, that's the dark teal colour, and the navy is Drops Big Merino. So hopefully at the end of December you'll see that finished and given to my sister, its recipient. Thank you to everyone who commented, and I'm thinking now about the October podcast rather than the little mid-November one. Thank you to everyone who commented on that one as well, but the topic is from October, and that's when I was talking about craft fairs and how much we charge for what we do. And I was expecting this to be a big debate, but it wasn't. Most people seem to be of the opinion that we're never going to get back what it's worth. So basically I was advised sell it for what I want to sell it for and take pleasure in the making. Acknowledging that, you know, some people are trying to make a living out of this and we're trying not to devalue what we do, but generally people were keep it to whatever fits right for you. A couple of comments that did stand out. This is from Catherine Stewart on YouTube, and she said, selling or not, I just wish non-crafters understood the amount of time these items take. I often feel pressurised by co-workers to make them things. First time I brush it off. Second time they start on about me making them something, I will tell them I will make that for you after you have spent, insert amount of hours, sitting on a couch thinking about me. Now I think that's a really good response, and I would actually take that further. I would suggest to them that you will knit, crochet, whatever it is they're asking the item, but while you're doing that they must come to your house and do the things you might otherwise be doing. So, you know, that could be the chores, it could be the ironing, it could be washing the car, it could be cleaning the oven. It's always a good one, isn't it? That might dissuade them a little, or at least give a sense of the time taken. So I thank you very much for that. And there was a post on Ravelry, I think this was from Miri Yummy, forgive me if I've miscited this, but it's along the lines of, knitting is like sex. If I like you and you appreciate it, it's free. If I don't, you couldn't pay me enough. Wise words for us all there, so thank you. Actually, quite often knitting's better. No, I'm not going down that route. So it's time for the giveaway. Now this was the giveaway for the fact that I'd reached 2,000 subscribers, so thank you again to everyone who has subscribed and to everyone who commented on my question. And we managed to prove that we are all nations divided by a common language, as the phrase had it, because I asked folks to pick their favourite festival, and I gave examples of the sort of thing I meant, and by festival I meant Christmas, Diwali, Eid, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, Australia Day, any of the above. Some people took that as a yarn festival, and I can understand why, because what I described as a festival, particularly to say US English speakers, would be a holiday. But to me, a holiday is a week on a beach in the Caribbean listening to audiobooks. Caribbean, who am I kidding? Probably the Mediterranean, listening to audiobooks and doing my knitting. But of course that's a vacation to other people. So in hindsight, it probably would have been better if I said, what's your favourite celebration? But we all got there in the end. Ultimately it didn't matter, it was just a way of putting your name forward that you wanted to be considered for a prize. And a huge thank you to everyone who did. Fascinating reading, a lot of festivals I'd never heard of that were particular to your vicinity. So thank you very much for that. Also interesting, the reasons why people like the celebrations that they do. If I were running a poll, I would say it's a close run thing between Christmas being the favourite or US Thanksgiving, and both for very similar reasons, that it's about getting the people you love together, be it family, friends, people you perhaps don't see very often. It's about time rather than the gifts. And in fact, a lot of people said they preferred Thanksgiving to Christmas because you don't have that pressure of the commercial aspect. So interesting that actually when it comes down to it, it's time and people that matter more than all the things we really love in a material basis. Stop it, Leslie. So thank you to everyone. The prize, just as a reminder, there are 2 of these store cubes made by the wonderful Janie from our Women's Institute and picked up at the bazaar. And inside the bigger one I have all the entry slips, so I'm going to pull from there at the moment. Inside the smaller one I have other prizes. There are some sweet treats that will be added to. And also, because I like to support local businesses, you have a beautiful skein of Lamington Lass yarn. She's from Lewis, which is in the same county as me, and it's her soft socks, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and it is a lovely soft yarn, so would work well as socks presumably because of the nylon, but would also work very well for a shawl or neckwear because it is lovely and soft with the merino content. The colourway is called Eye of the Tiger, tiger spelt T-A-I-G-A, and I must confess my ignorance, I had to look this up, and tiger in that sense, in that spelling, is a forest, and that makes a lot of sense when you look at these beautiful colours. So you've got lovely forest, dark browns, but also a beautiful pale blue and everything in between. So joy to whoever receives that, and I will now draw the winner. Sorry, that was a bit shrill, wasn't it? Right, this is me rummaging to find a winner, and we have, this is from Donna Henderson. So congratulations, Donna. Excuse me taking my glasses off to read this. I'm that age, dear. How nice that you and Barbara got to meet up. Absolutely. This is Barbara from the Flame and Fibre podcast. She was in the UK for a few days and we managed to meet up, go to a museum, have tea, met her husband. Absolutely. I couldn't express how happy I was to meet her. It was a really lovely day, and I've just dropped the piece of paper. Excuse me. That's the excitement, obviously. Congratulations on 2000 plus. Thank you very much. I don't think I have a favourite festival. There is a fair in my home state of Pennsylvania that I love, the Bloomsburg Fair. For a holiday, I always say New Year's Day. Not because it feels like a fresh start day, but because it's the one holiday nobody expects anything. No gifts, no parties of the day, no obligatory visiting required. Just relaxing and watching the Rose Parade. I hope your craft show went well. Take care until next time. Thanks for the visit. Well, thank you so much, Donna. I will respond to this on YouTube. By the time this video goes up, you will hopefully have heard from me. And thank you. Congratulations. We'll sort out your mailing address, but I know that you're in Pennsylvania, and I'll get this stuff in the post to you. Whether it will be with you by New Year's Day, I don't know. I hope so. We're reliant on the postal systems there. So congratulations. I'm putting that in with the prizes so that can be on its way to you. Thank you again to everyone else who entered. I wish I could give away lots of prizes, but I can't, and I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Life's like that sometimes. Why do I do these things? I think this makes it a good place to stop the podcast. So thank you again to everyone who's watched, liked, subscribed, pressed buttons. Yes, thank you. The time you spend with me means a huge amount, and I'm very, very appreciative. Next month, being December, I am going to do the Vlogmas podcasts, vlogs, I don't know how to describe it. Essentially, they are normally daily vlog type posts up on YouTube. The reality is I may not do one every day, because not every day is going to have stuff worth retelling. You know, went to work, came home, had some tea, walked the dog. You know, these things are not exciting viewing. They're not exciting living half the time. So I will spare you the mundane, but we do have a couple of things planned. Next week, which is the 1st of December, there is a local event called the Frost Fair, and it's a street market with procession. We're drumming, but we're not drumming in our normal black and red costume. We're in frost colours, so pale blues and creams and whites and that sort of thing. So we've got that on the 1st. I'm going to a concert. Hubby and I are going to Bath for a long weekend, one of the more beautiful cities in the world, and being a big Jane Austen fan, a wonderful place to be. It's a place I've been. Hubby and I have both been there, but not together. We've been there separately for different things, so looking forward to that trip. And then there's all the Christmas stuff. Yeah, so just if there's anything interesting, I'll vlog it and put it up. Like I say, it won't be daily. I will number them, so if you are interested in making sure you catch everyone, you'll know which ones you've seen and which ones you haven't. Does that make sense? I hope so. Apart from that, the normal podcast with knitting content, hopefully, will be up at the end of December. And I think we're done for the month. It's a grey old day here. I'm actually recording this at 9:30 in the morning, but the light feels like evening. It's a very grey autumnal day, and we're drumming tonight, and it's going to rain again. Yay! This is how I found out that all my lights are waterproof. The ones on my drum, my hat, the ones I wear. Yes, I wear lights. Yeah, they're all waterproof, so no sizzling or ignition, which is good. Yeah, so that's it for November, or at least the last weekend in November. I thank you again. I know I say that a lot, but I do genuinely appreciate everything that you do to contribute to the podcast. I mean, I'm the mouthpiece on this. I've been called that a few times. But it's thanks to your input and your contributions and your comments that there is stuff to say. So I'm very, very grateful. I hope you get the chance to do the things that you love. Whatever you celebrate at this time of year, there is quite a bit of choice. So there are lots of things going on. Hope you still get a bit of downtime, bit of clear the head space time. Small aside, meditation class last week, sitting up in a chair, still managed to fall asleep. Not embarrassing at all. No idea how much I snored. So even the dog's not happy with that one. And someone said to me the other day, how do you fall asleep upright in a chair? To which I replied, so with apologies to my fellow meditators. So it gave them some sound to concentrate on if they were finding that their brains were busy. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, I will wrap this up in a minute. Thank you. Apologies, I can't remember the name of the person who commented that they found it a bit of a pain to keep flicking volume up and down as I moved from section to section. I have hopefully balanced that out a bit. It's never going to be perfect because of the way I record, but hopefully it's less of a change now. If you find it's not, please do let me know and I'll keep working on it. I think we're done. Thank you again. I hope you get time to do all the things you love, and I hope the things you love bring you joy. Take care. See you again soon.